Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my reviews. Today we are driving a BMW M5, the F90 model, the 2019 version. This is a car I've been looking forward to for quite some time now, ever since it came out and ever since BMW announced its specs. This is the first M5 to come with all-wheel drive, and it is a phenomenal car. People have been complaining about the F10 and the fact that it was only rear-wheel drive for quite some time. That car was pretty good in itself, but sending 560 horsepower to the rear axle alone could bring about some issues. So BMW decided to poach an expert in all-wheel drive, which was Frank van Meel from Audi's Quattro division, and started working on an all-wheel drive system. Now, Van Meel is no longer the head of BMW M. His place was taken by Marcus Flasch, but he did a great job on the all-wheel drive system of this car because he created a system that would meet the expectations of every customer out there, because as always, not everyone wanted the car to become all-wheel drive. Not everyone was interested in bragging rights and just how fast this car goes in a straight line from standstill. So he created an all-wheel drive system that sends power to all four corners of the car if you wanted to, but it can also send power to the rear axle alone. That is done by the press of a button, well, actually a series of buttons, which allow you to switch between four-wheel drive sport and two-wheel drive modes. What that means is, in two-wheel drive, you get to send all the power to the rear axle, and that brings about some spectacular drift modes. Basically, you're turning your car into a tire burning machine. It is amazing how easily the back will step out once you turn off the DSC and set the car in two-wheel drive mode. That being said, this is also one of the most precise M cars I've ever driven. The four-wheel drive sport mode, which I used a lot because actually I was afraid of using two-wheel drive mode. The four-wheel drive mode is spectacular because it sends a lot of the power to the rear axle and only some to the front axle when it feels you need it, when it feels you're about to step out. So it's quite brilliantly set up. There's a notable difference between this all-wheel drive system on the BMW M5 and the one on its main competition, the Mercedes-AMG. The 4MATIC Plus system also has a drift mode, which allows you to send all power to the rear axle. The difference is, on the 4MATIC systems, you only get to send power to the rear axle in the first, second, and third gears. So that's something you might want to keep in mind whenever you're thinking about buying one of these Land Rockets. The thing is, few people will be actually bold enough to turn off the DSC and enter rear-wheel drive mode on a car that has 600 horsepower, because yes, the new M5 has 600 horsepower compared to the 560 of its previous generation. The engine under the hood is almost the same. It's also the S63, but it has been upgraded quite seriously, I might add. It has a new intake, it has a new exhaust, and it has new turbos and a new cooling system, because the S63 and the N63 are known for heating up rather fast and rather hard. So BMW wanted to make sure it manages the heat developed by this 4.4 liter twin turbo V8. The torque numbers have gone up as well. The new cars have 750 Newton meters of torque, while the old M5 had 680. That's 553 pound-feet of torque for our American friends. How does it feel? Well, torque comes around really low in the rev band. The engine revs really high for a turbocharged V8. Its red line is over 7,000 RPM, which is really high. But that is one of the things that defines an M car, a high revving engine. Once you start it up in the morning, it's going to be cold, and you will get a warning message telling you that full power is not yet available. That said, the engine revs up really fast and it delivers power throughout the rev band. No issues whatsoever in that regard. I cannot complain about turbo lag either, because the pedal response is really great, even in comfort mode. Now, I should talk about these configurable modes. On every M car, you don't just get 3 driving modes: Eco, Pro, Comfort, and Sport. No. On an M car, you get to adjust every single setting independently, from the engine response to the suspension and the steering. Every single one of those parameters has 3 different levels, from efficient, comfort, and sport. And then you can configure them all, and then you can configure the transmission and just how fast it changes gears. That said, the transmission has a couple of different modes, from softest to most brutal, and the slowest. It depends on what you want to achieve. Once you have everything configured to your own liking, you have 2 buttons on the steering wheel that allow you to save your preset. So basically, let's say you have a driving mode set up for long cruising miles. So you can set up everything in comfort and then save it all in the M1 button. Then there's the M2 button, which you can use to set up for the most hardcore version of the car. Basically, you can set it up with 2-wheel drive mode, DSC off, and everything else in sport mode. You can also do that. So these 2 buttons are very, very helpful, because you don't have to set up everything manually every single time. The car is extremely comfortable on long journeys, and it's actually quite amazing how much it transforms once you enter all those sporty and the most hardcore mode. Now, I should mention that driving it is quite an experience, not only on longer hauls where it is absolutely comfortable, but also when you want to push it really hard. It is expert at hiding its weight, because this thing is not light. This thing actually tips the scales at almost 2 tons. So it's not light on its feet. However, it manages to hide that weight brilliantly, and I have to praise BMW's suspension division for that, because they did a hell of a job. There is some lean in the corners, I'm not gonna lie, but considering how big this car is, it really shouldn't be this easy to drive. It is confidence inspiring up to a point where it gets scary fast, even in corners. I mean, I'm driving this thing and I don't even realize when I'm passing the 100 mile per hour benchmark. So it's really easy to get lost. Speaking of speed, this thing will do 100 kilometers an hour from standstill in 3.6 seconds. With that, the M5 had become the fastest accelerating car BMW has ever made, overtaking the M760 Li. However, not long after the M5 came out, the M5 competition came out, and it shaved another 0.1 seconds off that acceleration time, and it became the fastest acceleration model in BMW's history. So quite a couple of notable premieres for the M5. Push the car hard and the steering is right there with you, especially in 4-wheel drive sport mode. You'll notice how the nose keeps pulling you out of the corner, while the rear end is actually pushing the rear axle outwards, and basically transforms this car into a rocket on rails, if you want to, because it is really fast going in and going out of the corner. This car also has the carbon ceramic brakes, which do help out a lot, because you can carry a lot more speed getting into a corner. That said, this thing is probably the best M5 ever made. At this event where I'm at, we have a special guest, which is Jochen Neerpasch, the creator of BMW M. He drove this car and he said it is the best M car he ever drove. And that is mighty, mighty high praise from a legendary man, the man in charge of the 3.2 CSL, the man in charge of the M1. He was amazed at the fact that he could brake and steer at the same time with the M5. That says everything you really want to know about the M5. And this truly is an amazing machine. This has been my review of the BMW F90 M5. It's not your typical review because I didn't have a lot of time with the car, but I really wanted to tell you guys a bit about it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and maybe drop a comment if you want to know more about the car, or I don't know, if you have any additional questions. Until next time, make sure to drive safely.